Hello, and welcome back to our tutorial series for Evochron Mercenary. My name is Marlo, and I'll be walking you through this game, hopefully in an effort to make the learning curve a little less steep, and to show folks that this game, just how wonderful this game is, how amazing it is, and, show you how you can kind of ease your way into it. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about using our jump drive and using our navigational system. And those two really go hand in hand. You don't really want to be using your jump drive too much without using your navigational system. Otherwise, you have this annoying tendency to hyper jump into the middle of planets and stars and other solid objects. So, let's get right into it. Now, to get into our navigational console, you hit F1. That's the default keybind. Now, just so you know, the game is not actually paused right now. If we were in a hostile system, we could get jumped while we're poking around in our nav console. If our ship was moving right now, it would still be moving while we're playing around in the nav console. So, just, something to be aware of. In fact, I can hit the afterburner and move the ship a bit. So, let's talk about what we're seeing here in the navigational console. Now, in the middle is the this is the sector where we are. The default view is one sector. And these little squares are, subsectors. But the sector is really kind of the unit of measurement that you want to keep in mind. Now, up here in the upper right-hand corner, we have our sets of coordinates. We have our X, Y, and Z. Because remember, space is three-dimensional, and then we have our SX, SY, and SZ. S stands for sector. So the X, Y, and Z tells us our position within the sector, and the SX, Y, and Z tells us the sector that we're in. So, and we're in this also tells us that we're in the Sapphire system, and this will start to make more sense here in a minute. You usually, and remember now, we're just kind of going over the basics here. You can learn more about a lot of the detailed operation of these systems when you get into the game and start using them. It's a lot easier to kind of pick it up that way from other players. Excuse me, I have to answer the phone. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. My wife called. Right, so this is the navigational map, and we're really just going to go over the basics. I'm not going to go over every single thing that the nav map can do because I don't want to overwhelm you. But we're going to go over, just kind of the basic stuff. So this is the area of space that we're in. There's nothing in it, and that's partly by design. I kind of came out here when I started the tutorial series so that we'd have plenty of room to mess around and wouldn't have to worry about other ships being around or running into a planet or, something inconvenient like that. So we've got a couple buttons over here, zoom in and zoom out. Now we're about as zoomed in as we can get, so let's zoom out a little bit. And already with one click of the button you can start to see other points of interest. So that's this little yellow crosshair in the middle of the map is actually it's actually that nav point that we've been flying around here in the past couple of episodes. It's not always going to be there on your screen when you play the game. That's just what that is for now. So there are various things here, and we can use these buttons down here in the lower right hand corner to give us more information about them. The first one you want to hit is this text on button. Now this isn't very helpful because, as you can see, it's very jumbled up. Can we make this any bigger? Okay, we can, but the text is still pretty jumbled. So let me zoom back out. Okay, so once right, so you hit text on, and then it turns on all the text. Now a button appears below it. It says planets. If you click this button, only the names of planets will appear. If you click station. Now it says stations. Now all the names of the stations that are on the nav map will appear. Gates. These are jump gates to other systems. Objects. These are usually non-dockable objects. Like a barren moon or a asteroid field or something like that, and then all. And so this button just kind of cycles through. So what do we see here? Well, obviously this blue sphere is a planet. That is the planet Sapphire, and also the name of the system. You know how I told you that SX, SY, and SZ are your sector coordinates. They're what sector you're in. Sapphire is sector 0, 0, 0. And in fact, if we were to click on this quadrant button to show our quadrant map, this shows all the star systems that are currently known in the game. This is a small fraction of the star systems that are actually in the game. There are hundreds, let me say that again, there are hundreds of uncharted systems that do not appear on this map that you can discover in this game. I'll let you think about that for a second. But our current position is right here, Sapphire, coordinates 0, 0. So, and we'll talk more about this map when we talk about planet economies and system economies and things like that. I just wanted to show you, kind of give you a point of reference. This is the Evochron sector, and the Sapphire system is right in the center of it. And it is your starting point in the game. So let's go back to the normal map. Go back to the nav map. Now, we're not even zoomed out all the way. The Sapphire system, and we can zoom out some more, is very large, as you can see. You can play this game for hours and never leave the Sapphire system. That's what I did when I first started this game. I played for hours before I left the Sapphire system. There's a lot to do and see just in the starting system. And all the systems in the game that I've been to so far are pretty much like this. I mean, the scale of this game is enormous. And not only that, it's seamless. Yes, there are jump gates, but technically, you don't have to use them. You could actually manually fly from system to system. Now, that wouldn't be much fun, but that is how you discover some of the uncharted, well, basically all the uncharted systems, is through manual flight. And we'll get to that later on. It may be beyond the scope of this series in general. Finding new systems is kind of an advanced thing. So, let's zoom back in to get a little bit closer view. So, for this will do for now. So, just in this kind of local area of the Sapphire system, we see a big, kind of tic-tac-toe grid. Each of these big squares is one sector. So this says 0, 0, -1. That's the sector that we're in. Remember, Sapphire is 0, 0, 0. So this would be 1, 0, 0, I guess, and so on and so forth. You don't necessarily have to understand all of that to use this nav map, but that's how it works. Now, let's talk about some of the icons that we can see. Now, this map is very clickable. You can click, and if you click on something, you're setting a waypoint. So you have to be careful. I wouldn't want to set this waypoint and then use my jump drive to go to that place because, well, we would die more than likely because that's a planet. And it's very large. In fact, that is the planet that we saw right at the very beginning of the first episode of this tutorial series. So we can, if you left click, if you right click in a sector, you zoom in on that sector, and that makes things a little bit easier to see. So we have zoomed in on the sector where planet Sapphire is. Now, these buttons on the edges will move you up, down, left, or right, one sector at a time. So if we hit this down button, well, there we are, right there. So we're one sector kind of below, quote unquote, the starting sector. And the starting system. So let's talk about what some of these icons are. We're going to use this area as an example because it contains a lot of different icons. Obviously, this big blue and green sphere is the planet Sapphire. Now, there are plus marks at different points. Actually, you know what? We can zoom in on this so make it easier to see on YouTube. There we go. Okay, so there are plus marks around the edge of the planet. Those indicate the positions of cities on the planet's surface. You can land on the planet, fly through its atmosphere seamlessly, no loading screens, and land at these cities. You can land out in the middle of nowhere too, and there are things to do there out, sometimes. But these indicate that there are cities. Now, one of these has a box around it. This plus sign right here that I'm pointing at with the mouse cursor has a box around it. That indicates that it's kind of the capital of the planet. It's the main city. It's where most business is conducted. So that's what that means. Now, this big white thing here is a space station. Now, space stations do not always look like this on the map, but they are always white. So you'll see a few different shapes, but it'll be pretty obvious when you zoom in on them that it's a space station. This, oh, the AI is trying to trade with me. I'm not really worried about that right now. The purple square here represents a jump gate to another system. I forget which system it is, and the button that you use to cycle through the different names of things is not accessible on this particular view of the map, which is unfortunate, but that's just how it works. This little collection of odd shapes over here indicates the position of an asteroid field. So you can mine asteroids, you can destroy asteroids. Sometimes you get a mission to destroy them for, X number of dollars, a contract. But you can mine asteroids for minerals that you can sell at a trade station or on the planet's surface and things like that. So let's say that we wanted to travel back to the back to the place where we started. How would we do it? Well, we could point the ship in this direction and hit the afterburner and make sure we were in inertial mode, and we could coast there. But it would take a while. I honestly don't know how long it would take from our position, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was as long as half an hour. So, life is awfully short to be doing that. So, we're going to use our jump drive. How do we do that? Well, the first thing that we need to do is set a waypoint. So we're going to set a waypoint right here, in between, and you'll see the yellow crosshair has just moved there. We're going to set a waypoint right in between the planet and the space station. This is back where we started at the beginning of the first episode. And you do that simply by left-clicking. It's a good idea to click kind of, slightly away from things. Now, there is a way with space stations that you can actually, if you right-click on something like the jump gate or the station, you'll see that the nav marker goes right to the center of it, and that can set you up for quick docking. And I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. But for right now, we're just going to click on this point in between so that we don't run into anything, because that would be inconvenient. Now, so our nav point is now set. When we use our jump engines, it will fly to that nav point automatically. But there's a few things that you might want to do first. So let me show you what those are. Let's go back out to the map. Now, you don't have to be in that zoomed in version of the enlarged version of the map. You don't have to be in that view of the map to set a nav point. You can do it from right here, and usually when you play the game, that's what you're going to do. I just did it so that it would be easier to see on a YouTube video what was going on. So there are two ways. Now that our jump engines, now that our nav point is set, we've laid in a course, like Star Trek, lay in a course, Mr. Sulu. Now that a course has been laid in, now that we have chosen our destination, we could just hit the launch button. I'll talk about autopilot later. We could just hit the launch button. I don't like to do it that way because I kind of like watching the jump drive animation. So let's do it the other way. To do that, you close out the nav console. You can click on this X up here, or you can just hit F1 again. Now, we are already facing... our ship is motionless at the moment because we're just kind of hanging out, chatting about how these things work. But a lot of times, when you jump, it's a good idea to make your compass heading line up with 0, and it's going to be bright because I have to face the sun to do this. Don't worry, we're not going to jump into the sun. To make your compass heading 0, and to level out your pitch, up and down, and to level out your roll. In other words, straighten up. Now, you can initiate a jump from being sitting still, from a stationary position. But it's often useful to have some momentum on your side when you're about to jump. So I have put the ship in inertial mode in case you can't see through the glare here, and just tapped on the afterburner to get ourselves going. Now, in order to initiate the jump, all you have to do is hit the F2 button. It's that simple. So it takes a second to charge. And we have jumped. Now, the computer voice just told us that we have entered the gravity field of the planet. We're actually very close to it. A little closer than we probably ought to be. But here's the station over here. So let's get away from the planet a little bit so that we don't get sucked down into the atmosphere. We'll cover how you land on planets later on. But you should recognize this area as the place where we started. And of course, there's all kinds of ships over here. Yeah, there's all kinds of ships here. There's the space station. And here's the pretty blue planet behind us. This is planet Sapphire. Now, if we go back into our navigational console, we can see that in fact, and I'll zoom in on the map again so that you can see what's happening, but there we are. We're the green triangle, and there's the planet and the space station just like we saw before. And all we had to do was left click on that spot. So let's get back out of this so that we don't run into anything. Now, let's say, actually, you know what? Let's go back to where we were. So I'm going to go back into the navigational console. We could zoom out, but we know we were one sector basically to the south, the galactic south of here. So I'm just going to hit this button, and I'll tell you what that is here in a second. But let's set a nav point right there. Again, we hit the F1 key to exit the navigational console, and we press F2 to engage our our jump drive. And momentarily, we are back. Now, there's a couple other things about the nav map that you should know. So I'm going to bring the ship to a halt using the IDS brake that we talked about in the in the afterburner video. Let's pull the nav map back up. Now, one thing you should know, and it would be more useful if we were looking back at the starting sector here, is I keep telling you that outer space is three-dimensional in this game. That is absolutely true, but of course this nav map only shows a two-dimensional plane. So how do you navigate in 3 dimensions? Well, the way you do it is you hit this button that says rear view. You press this button to give yourself the rear view. So watch what happens to the actual map here when I push the button. Now, I don't know if you were able to tell what happened, but basically the map rotated 90 degrees. Now what we're looking at, the two-dimensional plane we're looking at is up and down, so to speak. Up and down. Vertical, vertical. If we click back on top view, now the area that we're looking at is kind of, left and right. That's the easy way to think about it, is this view is like you are looking at a map that shows you kind of horizontally speaking where things are in relationship to each other. When you click rear view, what you're looking at is where things are vertically, you know. So the planet is actually, and this line is the elliptical. It is the kind of the center line of the galaxy. And so the planet's actually slightly below, and the star over here is, or is that's either the star of the system or it's the moon. I forget what that is. Anyway, it's slightly above, and the space station is right on it, which is why the space station, when we click back and forth from top view to rear view and so on and so forth, it's always right in the center. So yeah, so let me show you a place where this actually matters here in the Sapphire system. First, we're going to click the Stations button to show us stations, and we're going to zoom. Oops, wrong place. We're going to zoom out just a bit. I forget, there's a particular station here. That's the one. Oops. Pardon me, I've clicked on the wrong thing. Let me zoom back out. So there's a particular station. You know what? Let's turn off the... let's turn things off for a second. There's a particular space station that... yeah, okay, so that white thing is the moon. That's the star right there. Anyway, there's a space station. It might be this space station right here. Let's get over to that one if we can. Over one, down one from where we currently are. Okay. I think it's... well, I'm having trouble with that. Anyway, I think it's this space station right here. If we were to set a course for this space station, when we got there, we wouldn't see it anywhere. Why? Because it's actually well above the plane of the elliptical plane. So there's the elliptical plane right down the middle, and there's the space station. It's vertically above the plane, but you'll see it on the map horizontally speaking. But if we go there, we won't see the space station. So if that happens, well, let me put it this way. When you start out, it's okay to assume that things are more or less on the galactic plane. In other words, that you will be able to find them from the default nav map view. But if you jump to somewhere and the object that you were trying to find is nowhere to be found when you get there, then you might go into your nav map and push this button and see if in fact it is above or below you, because it's entirely possible that that's the case. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of. It doesn't happen that often, especially in the main charted systems, but it does happen. So, you know, it doesn't hurt to go, when you go into a new system, to get kind of a zoomed out view of the nav map and just hit the button and see if there's anything significantly above or below the plane of, you know, most of the objects in the galaxy. So just like I say, just something to be aware of. Okay, let me explain to you what this number 1 is right here. You can create a map log. You can highlight any point. So let's put our nav point right here, and you hit this button right here that says map log. And oh wait, that's the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Excuse me. It's not the nav point, it's where your ship is. So let's say that we go to this spot, and for some reason we like this spot. Well, we can hit this button, add to log, and it will add a place, and we'll just say random spot 2. There's a random spot 1 because I made a previous attempt at recording this video and I forgot to delete it. But we're going to save random spot 2. So, you can save just about as many of these as you would like. As far as I know, there's no actual limit. So, and it saves these forever. We can go as far away from these places as it is possible to go, but we can still find them in our map log. Now, this can be very useful, and if you want to fly to one of them, you could just select them. You know, it'll take you there. So, and see, our nav point is there. Now, if we were to hit map log and hit random spot 1, our nav point will now be at random spot number 1. So, you can use these to mark places that you find to be useful, like for mining or, you know, further exploration, whatever you want to do. But, yeah, you can mark up your map, and you can save it, and it'll be there forever. So that's nice. Okay, so that's the basics of the navigational map. There are other things that this map can do, but they're more advanced, and, you know, we don't have to worry about those right now. What I've told you is enough to get you started, and you can kind of pick up the rest as you go along. But we do have to talk about jump drives for a moment, the actual device itself. I'm going to push F3, which will bring up our ship's inventory. Now, we haven't talked about this screen yet, and I'm going to do a video where we talk about this screen and how you interact with this screen, particularly when you're docked at a space station. So for right now, don't worry about any of that. Okay, but up here in the upper left-hand corner, there is our equipment slots, and you'll see that we have a fulcrum drive C1, Class 1. The fulcrum drive is basically the hyperspace drive, jump drive in this game universe. And there are various classes of drive. Now, we have the basic drive because we have the basic ship. Surprise, surprise. So, what does that mean that it's a basic drive? A Class 1 fulcrum drive is only capable of jumps up to more or less one sector away. One sector away at a time. So, let me show you what that actually means in practice. I'm going to press F1 and go back to the navigational screen. Now, remember, I told you that the default view of the nav map is one sector, and if we zoom out, we can see all these other sectors around us. Now, with our base jump drive, what you see on the nav map here is basically we can get anywhere on this map in one jump. In one jump. We can go to any of these places that you see here. Now, let's zoom out one more time. Okay, so we're in this. It's probably hard to see. Let me zoom in on it again. Okay, so our ship is still the green triangle. We're still in the center of the map. And remember, our jump drive, our Class 1 jump drive, can jump anywhere basically within one sector away. So we can jump anywhere in this sector in one jump, or this sector in one jump. Any of these sectors that surround our ship, where we currently are, we can get to in one jump with the jump drive that we have now. So, what if I want to go to this space station over here? Or, better yet, let me go back to the map and zoom out one more time. Let me zoom in now. Okay, so here we are still in the center. And remember, we can go anywhere within a sector radius of our current position with the jump drive that we have now in one jump. So if I wanted to go to this area over here where there's a space station and an asteroid field, it would take me 2 jumps. If I wanted to go to this area up here, it would take me, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 to 4 jumps to get to this area. So how do we do that? Let me show you. First, let's do like we did before and left click, and we will set up a navigational, we'll set up a nav point. So, There's our nav point way up here, several sectors away, and here we are in our little sector of emptiness, our tutorial sector, if you will. So how do we get there? Here's how you do it. It's the autopilot button here. It's the autopilot button. What will happen is when you push the autopilot button, and there's a shortcut key for it, and quite honestly, I forget what it is. I think it might be the Alt. I think it might be Alt F2. Actually, why don't we look and see? So I don't tell you the wrong thing. We'll look at our keyboard shortcuts, and it may take me a second to find it here. It might be on the second page. Okay, honestly, I don't... Oh, okay. Alt F. Form on target. So enter formation. Alt for nav autopilot. So Alt F is the default key combination for that. But if you want to, you can also hit the autopilot button. And assuming you have enough fuel, which we do. And here's the other thing about the jump drives. So the jump drive can take us one sector away from where we are now. It costs 1 unit of fuel to do that. If you have a class 3 jump drive, well, you can jump anywhere within a 3-sector radius in one jump, but it will cost you 3 units of fuel. If you have a class 5 jump drive, you can jump anywhere within 5 sectors of where you currently are in one jump, and it costs 5 units of fuel. You should see a pattern forming here. So let me zoom in just a bit and illustrate this a little more. So this is our current range with our current jump drive. If we had a class 3 jump drive, then we would be able to get anywhere here in one jump, and oops, wrong button. Oh, that's too much. We would be able to go 3 sectors in one jump. So, you know, anywhere in this box that I am kind of sort of doing a bad job of outlining, we could get in one jump from where we are right now. But we don't have that right now. We have a class 1 jump drive. So we need to, I want to show you how the autopilot works. Let's try this keyboard command. Okay. So Alt F should be the button for autopilot. Your ship will automatically turn to face the nav point, and your jump drive will engage, and the autopilot will use as few jumps as it can to get you where you want to go. If you need to disengage the autopilot, you just hit the key command again. This would be a good time to transfer power to our weapons system, which will make our jump drive recharge faster and speed this process along just a little bit. I forgot to do that before. You really should do that, you know, the first time, you know, before you start the autopilot process. So another jump or so, and we should be there. But yeah, the computer's doing this. My hands are not currently on the controls. I'm not touching anything. And this, I would think, would be our last jump. Right, it is. So, we'll turn the autopilot off and enter inertial flight mode, and we'll have a look about us. Here's the planet with the ring around it. It's kind of neat, and you can actually fly into those rings, and they're little rocks and stuff, you know, because that's what planet rings actually are in real life. And there is the station. And so, and if we look at our nav map, let's zoom in on our current position. Here we are, and it took what, 4 or 5 jumps to get here. And down here is where I'm pointing is our little tutorial sector, and here's the starting sector in the game. And of course, this planet, let's zoom in and show, let's zoom the map in here. This planet is no different. It has a couple of cities. There's another starport, a space station, and there's an asteroid field that we could go mine. So that's the basics of how your jump drive works, and you know how you use the nav map. There are more things that you can do with the nav map, but they're probably a little outside the scope of what we're kind of doing here, which is just kind of going over the basics. But this button right here is actually also useful. I should have mentioned this before. It basically sets a nav point at your current location. Now, of course, if your ship is moving, it soon won't be at your current location. But this is useful if you're exploring or you are worried that you might get lost. You can set a nav point at your current location and then fly off in whatever direction or jump in whatever direction. And as long as you don't change your nav point, you can always get back to it. The other thing you could do is add the point to your map log. If it's a place you want to be able to get back to, no problem. And you're good to go. So let me, in fact, why don't we show how the map log can come in handy. So remember, we saved random point 1 and random point 2. We're going to select random spot number 2. It doesn't matter which one because they're in the same sector. And we're going to go back to our nav map. Now we can't see it, but if we zoom out, and let me zoom the map in overall. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but our nav point is now set at random point 2. So if we want to, and we will, because why not, we can now autopilot our way back to our tutorial sector. And we've got all of our power set to weapons, so our jump drive will recharge pretty quickly. Now, of course, you don't have to use the autopilot if you're jumping someplace that is within a one jump range of your jump drive. So as you get more and better jump drives, you will probably find that you use the autopilot less and less often. Yeah, so the largest jump drive, that's the most advanced jump drive that is easily available, is the Class 5 jump drive, where you can jump 5 sectors in one jump. So you don't need the autopilot if you're going to jump anywhere within 5 sectors in one jump. There is a jump drive that you can get that will allow you to jump 10 sectors in one jump, but that one's harder to get, and it would be a spoiler if I told you where it was, so I'm not going to do that, but it's easy to find on the internet if you just have to know. Alright, so there is the nav point, and we can turn off the autopilot now. And we have our IDS turned on, and we've set it to bring us to a halt. And now the ship has stopped. So that's how to use your autopilot to jump around to areas on the navigational map. Now keep in mind, all of this that we did is all in the Sapphire system. Let's go back to the quadrant map. All of the jumping around that we just did, and we didn't leave this spot in the middle of the map. It's huge. This game is absolutely humongous. It is amazing to me that one man made this game. Now, one other thing that's pretty cool, that planet over there, that's Planet Sapphire. That's the starting planet in the starting sector. If we wanted to, we could lay on the afterburner, and we could fly there manually. It would take a long time, but we could do it. So, yeah, again, the game is seamless in that way. There's really no loading screens. Right. that pretty well covers how the jump drives work and how the nav map works, or at least the basics of it. So hopefully I presented that in a way that's somewhat clear. I'm going to cut the video here, but when we come back, we're going to learn how to dock, how to land on at a space station, how to land on a planet, and how to conduct business at cities and space stations. In other words, how to use the inventory screen to buy things for your ship, to buy commodities to sell, and other things that you can do when you have docked your ship. So, until then, I hope you're doing well, hope you continue to do well, and I'll see you in the next one.